I've realized is that most people genuinely do not know how to cook. Frying an egg, you know, like making breakfast, egg scramble or something, or boiling pasta, that's not cooking. Like, that is not cooking. That is also the reason why so many people here think that vegetables are gross. Honey, that's because you don't know how to cook them. You don't know how to season them. That's why people think that salads are gross and boring. It's because you don't know how to make them. Hi all, ciao visiem. It's Lulu, your favorite vegan in the whole world. Look, look, look. Ah, I'm so excited. Today's video, I'm gonna be sharing 10 tips for going vegan. I've been vegan for forever. To hear more about my journey, watch this video right here. Also, to hear more about my critiques on Western overconsumption and consumption in general, which a lot of it has to do with also veganism and animal products, watch this video here. But without further ado, since I have a lot to say, let's go. My tip number 1 is know your reason why. Okay, there are a million reasons people go vegan, like truly a million, and it really doesn't matter why you're doing it, but knowing that reason and having a reason is really, really important. For me, I went vegan, you know, I stopped eating animals fully when I was like 12, 13, and I've always, you know, done it solely because of the animals, because I believe that animals are sentient human beings, and I don't think that we have supremacy over them and that we should torture and kill them for our pleasure and benefit, because that's speciesism. So that is my reason. But other people have turned to veganism because of health reasons, you know, since it's a great way to improve your diet and even to reverse a lot of diseases. Other people have turned to veganism to reduce your carbon footprint and in general to lessen the damage that we are causing our environment through factory farms and so on. Doesn't matter why you're doing it, just know why you're doing it. Literally right now, like if you're thinking about it, write it down. Like write it down. What's your reason? Tip number 2. Don't cut anything out. Start by adding more plants into your diet. So one thing I've noticed about the Western diet, and specifically about the American diet, is that most people really just don't eat plants, period. Like most meals I look at, to me it's like, this is like absolutely unacceptable. A meal should be 80% plants. Like, what is this burger situation going on here? So that's something I've noticed, is that literally like almost all of the Western world, specifically the US, almost 80% of the consumption is solely meat as in animal products, dairy, and carbs. And then 20% is just like produce and vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. So for most people, just flipping that 80-20 to be the other way is going to be a lot of work, because you're not just cutting out animal products from your life, you're essentially changing everything about the way you eat and about the way that you've been taught to eat, the way you've seen other people eat, and so on. And by the way, just making that 80-20 switch, you know, if you're still consuming animal products but now they're in the minority of what you consume, would be huge for your health, for the environment, for animals, for the whole world. So that would be a victory. The way this can look is 2 different ways, and I do this with Isaiah all the time. So one would be to simply add more plants to your meal. So like, for example, for breakfast, Isaiah will typically have like bread, egg, cheese, maybe bacon. And what I'm gonna do is go in the kitchen and say, no, okay, let's add some tomatoes, kale, spinach, mushrooms, and bell pepper, avocado, maybe even chickpeas. I don't know what I'm in the mood for. But point is that you just add more plants to the stuff that you normally eat. If you follow me on Instagram, which you should, because I post a lot of good vegan food, you see that whenever I'm home with my mom, like we have our meal, which is already vegan and plant-based for dinner, and then we have a huge bowl of salad next to it. I mean, like, just getting into this understanding that most of your food should come from plants, and just adding it to it, adding to your regular food, even if you're still consuming meat, just adding a lot of vegetables and produce and plants and so on. And the amazing thing is that we can only consume so much in one sitting. Like, our stomach is just one size, so you know you can push it full of just bread and cheese and eggs or whatever. But if you start adding more plants, you actually don't have as much room for all those other things. So this is really key. And trust, in the American diet there is so much room to do this, like infinite room to do this. And the other way to do this is to do this by substitution. So just substituting some of your meals for vegan meals. Maybe you decide that every other day of the week for dinner you're gonna cook something vegan. So you go on Instagram, you go on YouTube right now, and you search for like easy vegan dinner recipes, and you just do that every other week. So once again, you're still consuming sort of more or less your regular diet, still consuming animal products, but you're adding new things in, which is really, really, from my observations, key. A lot of people need to start adding new things into their diet and adding a lot more plants into your diet. Tip number 3, veganize your favorite meals. So quesadilla, mac and cheese, burritos, paella, sushi, ramen, burgers, whatever those 5 meals that you make very often that are your like key meals are, learn to veganize them. So I personally am not a huge fan of veganizing things because I don't function from a place of trying to mimic something else, but that's also because I have not consumed animals since I was like 13. Learning to veganize things you already love can be really fun, and it's food you already love. And also trust me when I say this, literally anything can be veganized, literally anything. With that being said though, do not try to veganize your entire diet. First of all, that's just going to be so time-consuming, complex, and you will burn out. Second of all, your diet really is not going to change that much or improve if that's what you try to do. So just start slow, veganize some things, and then let's see the other tips. Tip number 4, immerse yourself in the vegan community. This is so important and fun and amazing. Follow vegans on Instagram, follow vegan YouTube channels, you know, all types of accounts and stuff. And you know, as I said, I've been vegan long before most vegan things existed. There's certainly no vegan community back then. There's no even, you know, Instagram or whatever. So having gone without that, like I feel like people who are coming around to veganism now are just so privileged, and it's so amazing because there are so many resources on any given day. I can barely decide out of the 15 meals that I'm craving and been inspired by from just looking on my Instagram, what am I gonna make today? It's also a really great way to stay motivated because on the daily, we don't really think about the environmental damage that factory farms are causing, or like how it's damaging our health to eat so much dairy or meat and stuff like that. So just having these quick infographics on the daily, sort of reminding you on Instagram, oh, it takes like the same amount of water to produce one burger than it does like 500 pounds of vegetables and so on, can be really great to keep you motivated. Tip number 5, learn to cook. I think this is the most important step in the entire process, and probably also the hardest one. So I come from a society where everybody cooks and everybody eats at home. Well, let's not say everybody, all women cook and everybody eats at home. I know that's not what the Western society is like. So one thing I've realized is that most people genuinely do not know how to cook in the West, and specifically in the US. Frying an egg, you know, like making breakfast, egg scramble or something, or boiling pasta, that's not cooking. Like, that is not cooking. That is also the reason why so many people here think that vegetables are gross. Honey, that's because you don't know how to cook them. You don't know how to season them. That's why people think that salads are gross and boring. It's because you don't know how to make them. And this means, first and foremost, stock up your pantry with so many seasonings and goodies and sauces and flours and all types of things that you're gonna be using often. So for me, those would be like yeast flakes, 5 different types of flour, cashews, every single nut butter, coconut aminos, tamari, rice vinegar, smoked paprika, liquid smoke, cans of beans, coconut milk, all types of different things that I always have in my pantry, and I'll return to why that's important, but that would be like step 1. You gotta learn how to cook. I guarantee that there are vegetables you've never cooked before in your life, or you've cooked them but you haven't cooked them well, whether it's squash or Brussels sprouts or jackfruit, whatever. And you also may not be aware just how versatile things like vegetables and tofu and whatever are. That carrot can become lox or tuna or bacon, or the chicken or mushrooms can become chicken, or tofu can become ricotta and stuff like that. So there's just so many things you need to learn how to cook. And secondly, baby, have you ever tried meat uncooked? Any meat eater would throw up, because you know what? That's a dead animal body. Like, that is an actual body of a diseased animal that should be buried. The only reason people eat it is because we season it and we cook it, which is essentially the same thing we can do with vegetables and tofu and produce and plants and all types of things. Of course, learning how to cook is a lifelong skill. It doesn't end. I'm still learning. Everyone's still learning, you know, depends on from where you start. So don't overwhelm yourself. Start with easy recipes, of which there are plenty. As I said, YouTube right now, easy vegan recipes, and you'll find like a gazillion. So don't overwhelm yourself. Start easy. Don't worry, you know, like you're gonna get to level 15 vegan and be able to make cheese from scratch and even vegan shrimp Alfredo pasta and so on soon. Baby steps, baby steps. Tip number 6, substitute some animal products. So if there are certain products that you know you use often, like maybe cheese or milk or mayo or I don't know, whatever, it might be worth substituting them for the time being. And this is something that I did with Isaiah a lot. So for milk, I just substituted it to plant milk. For butter, I just started buying plant butter. For mayo, I started buying vegan mayo. I personally never did this, also because these things simply didn't exist when I started, but it can be a really, really good way to kickstart the process. It might be more expensive because vegan products like the specific items can be more expensive, because our wonderful society and our wonderful country subsidizes meat and dairy industry. Like the way dairy industry is subsidized, if it wasn't for the subsidies, it would fail as a business model, but let's not get into it. Anyways, what I'm saying is that it can be more expensive in the beginning, but as I said before, this is just kickstarting the process. Likely you won't actually need those things in the long term. And I say likely, but I'm actually like 1000% sure, because you know, things like cheese is literally a hard drug. We're all addicted to it. I was, you know, and you think that you're never going to be able to give it up, and oh my god, look at vegan cheese, it's like $5 for this small pack. Like, I can't live like that. Don't worry, you won't have to, because you'll buy that pack once, twice, 3 times, and after a while you're going to be like, meh, I don't really crave it that much. Like, legitimately, I used to eat so much cheese, I gag now when I see cheese. Tip number 7, prepare meals beforehand and keep your fridge and pantry full. It is really, really, really important to have your fridge full always, unless you're rich, in which case I have no advice for you, and also you have no excuse, so like, get off my channel. But the reason this is important is because, as I mentioned before, most people in the West are not used to cooking all of their meals. So the last thing you want is to come home after a long day of work and be really, really hungry and open the fridge and see that there's nothing there. So you're just gonna be like, just gonna order Domino's or something. And that is how this whole attempt fails. That is why you should always have food at home, always have a fully stocked fridge and a pantry, always, 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 always. What that looks like is going to depend from person to person. So I know a lot of people, is like, that was my case too. When I was working a 9-to-5 in DC, I would meal prep like crazy. Like Sundays, I was meal prepping, like I had like containers on containers, you know, like for lunches and dinners and so on. Right now that I work from home, I don't do that anymore, also because I just prefer my food to be fresh, and because I am a great chef, and I'm not even going to be humble about it because I really am, and because I've been cooking my entire life 3 times a day, I'm able to cook very, very fast. So even if I am between meetings or classes or something, it doesn't take me more than 15 minutes to prepare a quick pad thai or something. So I know that other people, for example, meal prep by like chopping up different veggies and keeping them in containers, freezing some stuff like beans that you've made or whatever, like sopa de frijoles, whatever you've made. It doesn't matter. It depends on, you know, as I said, it's going to look different from person to person. Most importantly, just have food at home. Have food that is like good quality food that'll take longer to make, and also have food that might be like quicker to make. Number 8, make it fun and function from a place of abundance. Yeah, this is food, okay? Delicious, delicious food. We're learning how to cook and we're eating, okay? Trying new cuisines, it's fun. It's a really fun process. It shouldn't be something that is stressful or just, you know, adds to your stresses. This is a fun thing. And although this mental switch may take a little while to get there, remember that you are functioning from a place of abundance. Out of all of the things that we as human beings can eat, animals and animal products is a tiny, tiny part. So you're really working with majority of what's available. We're functioning from a place of abundance. Remember that. Tip number nine. Tip number 9 is transition at your own pace. This is not a race. Do not compare your journey to anyone else. You know, there are certain aspects of the process that some people struggle more with, and then there are other parts that you may have thought would be a struggle, but actually turn out to be really easy and not a struggle at all. Doesn't matter. It's your timing, your process. Most important thing is to stick to it and always return to it. And the last tip, number 10, is align your morals. I strongly believe that this is the most important tip, and it's the foundation of all else. If you want to succeed in this, if you want to continue, if you want this to be truly part of your life, you have to align your morals with the vegan philosophy, foundation, so on. At the end of the day, veganism is not a diet. It is a moral, an ethic, a lifestyle that recognizes animals as sentient beings and believes that we do not have supremacy over them, that seeks to reduce the harm that we cause, because obviously all vegans are still causing harm, but we are seeking to reduce that. And whatever was your initial reason that brought you to veganism, might have been, health, or maybe even, I don't know, trying to treat your acne, which 90% of research says you have acne because you consume dairy, or you did it for whatever, like even to lose weight or whatever reasons you went into it. Make that switch to actually learn about the philosophy and the foundation. Because nothing is going to make you more committed than really knowing and understanding these values and understanding veganism as really a political, moral, and ethical stand. So what does that mean? Watch Cowspiracy, watch Earthlings, watch videos of factory farm abuse, of cows crying when their babies are ripped away from them minutes after birth, of piglets shaking before they get slaughtered, animals getting beaten up in factory farms just for fun, which happens really often, like all of these types of abuses and things. We've become very, very removed from it and tend to forget what goes on, how our food is made. Because I can tell you with 1,000% certainty that there is nothing that would ever make me stop being vegan because of my foundation for it, and because I'm aware of the suffering it causes animals, the environment, all these systems and structures, rather than it just being something that I think about when I eat. Okay, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with the process. Like this video, comment with any comments or questions below. I always answer them, and I probably have a ton more tips that I'm able to give, so just comment below. Subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be doing a lot more vegan related content, and I'm eventually also going to be posting recipes. Follow me on Instagram, where I already post a lot of food pictures and recipes. I love you so much, and I love all the animals on this planet. May we all live happily, freely, healthily, and free of suffering.